everyone. Hi, I'm Genia McCaffery, and I'm part of the OVERdevelopment-we're over at team. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, the Camaragal people, and pay tribute to their owners, their elders past and present. Welcome to our Stop OVERdevelopment rally. I want to start by explaining that we support well-planned, integrated development, not inappropriate, poorly planned, chaotic overdevelopment. We do not support planning proposals, which are effectively spot rezonings, because they allow developers to submit unsolicited proposals for key sites across the state without going through a proper local or regional rezoning process. Locally, we're fighting against the prospect of 50-storey towers on the Triangle site, just up the road here, across the road from Woolies, and a planning proposal for 50 storeys plus on the IBM site down in St Leonard's. So now for the main event. We invited all our local MPs, the Premier, the Planning Minister and the Member for North Shore to speak to us today. All send a representative. They all declined. It's now my pleasure to introduce those who did accept our invitation. Carolyn Corrigan, the independent candidate for North Shore. Richard Quinn, the independent candidate for Lane Cove. Andrew Zbik, the Labor candidate for Lane Cove. David Shoebridge, the Greens MP and the Greens planning spokesperson, has been held up and will be with us soon. So I want to ask each of them to answer a series of 5 questions. So Caroline, in alphabetical order, we'll start with you. There's widespread community concern about what's being planned for this area. If you're elected, how will you respond to these community concerns?
I just want to start by saying I understand your concerns. I have exactly the same concerns. The planning process has abandoned local communities and is weighted in favour of big developers. Priority precincts allow mass rezoning on a scale we've never seen before, and witnesses and the power is entirely put into the hands of the Minister. I'd promote a policy to return to a councillor's first planning approach. I would also pursue every opportunity to legislate that all meetings between the department and developers are open and transparent.
Well, first of all, I think there needs to be an immediate moratorium on developer-led planning proposals and stop rezoning. I'd actively work towards changes to planning legislation that moves the pendulum back to decision-making by local communities. It's gone too far the other way. We need a robust and transparent scrutiny of those plans so that everyone can see what's going on and understand it, and that the resulting planning instruments that end up being created must be created by communities and not overridden by Planning New South Wales or planning laws.
I'm proud to share with you that on the 12th of January, Michael Daly, the leader of New South Wales Labor, announced that Labor will scrap all remaining planned precincts across Sydney, and this includes the St Leonard's and Crow's Nest Draft 2036 plan. And I'd like to share with you just a bit of context behind that. Michael Daly, he was a councillor for 13 years on Randwick Council, and Tanya Mihaluk, who's the shadow planning minister of the Labor Party, she was the former mayor of Blacktown. And I found in them 2 people who understand what it means to be local, connected to your community as a councillor. One thing I found incredibly frustrating as a councillor is that we can have these planning proposals and these planned precincts come right over us as a councillor. And I know you as a community look to us to uphold some planning laws, and we're completely being overridden. At best now, a local environmental plan is merely a wish list of a local council that can be changed, chopped and morphed into something else at the behest of the state government. So one thing I've also done, and I'd like to really put a call out there, as a councillor on Lane Cove Council, I moved a motion that we as a council take the initiative to work with our neighbours in North Sydney and Willoughby. There are a number of councillors here today from those councils I know who support that, But unfortunately on those councils we have a number of people who masquerade as independents but they're members of the Liberal Party and they have refused cooperation. So I ask for you to go to all your councillors and emphasise to them how important it is that the three councils affected by this area, Willoughby, Lane Cove and North Sydney, work together so we get the right planning outcome for our region. Thank you.
So we'll go on to the next question now. And I'd ask Richard to answer this first. If you're elected, will you support calls by the community to abandon the proposed developments over Crow's Nest Metro and work with the community to achieve a low-rise alternative for the site?
Well, Genia, in short, yes. Because this government needs to be held account for its secrecy and deliberately limited information about the development at Crow's Nest Metro. As Genia said earlier, when I walked past it last weekend, the hoarding, the imagery that's around the fences of the site down there gives you a totally different impression. We know that's not the case, and we need to make sure that this community knows that that's not the case. We need to oppose that 27-storey tower on top of the metro station. It will have my full support to oppose it.
I definitely cannot support the proposal in its current form. It is utterly lacking any community benefit. I think this is the problem we've seen with this current state government, is that they simply put economic gain before any social benefit. And for example, the Auditor General revealed in December that there's currently $257 million that's been collected by the state government from developments that's meant to be put into public infrastructure, and we haven't seen anything of that nature, this proposal. Now, this is another example where I think this is state government-owned land, and it doesn't have to be flogged merely for the highest price. You know, where's the plan to have affordable housing? Where's the plan? Yes, some green space, public amenity. What I mean is, indoor sports facilities. All of those concepts are lacking from this proposal, and they are the kind of things that I would like to see us include in a site like this, something that has benefit for us as a community.
Absolutely echo the two former speakers. I would absolutely represent you to abandon the 27-storey high-rise and go for a low-rise alternative, which is acceptable to the community. As we said, the community faith and trust has been absolutely dashed by the dodgy and deceitful representation of the metro being in the schema for the Department of Planning, with absolutely no high-rise at all pictured over the metro station. If elected, I would prosecute the North Sydney Council's unanimous motion calling for a pause on the metro over station development plans, because it is total disregard for this community and its desire to protect and preserve Crow's Nest and the surrounding area's amenity. I support the call to stop high-rise at Oxley Street and for that to remain completely within the planning envelope of the St Leonard's precinct, and to have absolute height limits mandated. The upcoming election is the chance to send this government a clear message that to ignore this community is to do so at their peril.
And now I'd like to invite Andrew to just tell us about what his position is on planning proposals and whether he'd support removing them from the New South Wales planning system.
Thank you, Genia. This, I think, is one of the proudest things I can campaign on, is the fact that, again, on the 12th of February, the Labor Party announced that it will stop developer-led planning proposals, full stop. This, I think, is the root to the cause as to why so many people have lost faith in our planning system. And I think this is, never before have we had that developers could appeal the decisions made by local councillors, and we have to make sure the community at large understand it's the current government that allowed that. That was a massive shift in power as to who decide what gets built where. So what we'll do, by stopping developer-led planning proposals, we go back to a situation where your council's local environmental plan is set in stone once again, and it's your council and your local councillors who have the final say as to what gets built in your area, and I think that's the best thing we can do to empower local communities.
Well, planning proposals, as we all know, is just another name for amendments to local environment plans and other planning controls, which until this government was the domain of local government, making applications to vary their local planning instruments. So the decision-making for planning in New South Wales has now been taken away from local communities, and that's at every level. At a normal residential level, we've got complying development certificates which override council planning controls. Then we've got local planning panels in every council, where the majority of planning panel members are appointed by the minister. Then we've got state significant development, the next layer, again dealt with by the planning department. So communities have lost their voice in all of these levels of planning. In regard specifically to planning proposals, only this week Lane Cove Council has received 2 planning proposals for changes to what's expected in St Leonard South, Greenwich area. Previously that couldn't happen under former governments and former legislation. I would definitely oppose developer-led planning proposals and make sure that any changes to local planning instruments are left with local communities, the local democratically elected representatives of our councils, the ones that make the planning instruments in the first place.
Again, we're all in furious agreement, which is a fantastic thing. The planning proposal process must be reviewed, must be stopped. Planning proposals effectively enable wholesale mass changes to be made on neighbourhoods, preempting the local planning process. Currently, communities are the last concern, and really we should be the first concern. The process is development friendly. It places extraordinary power in the hands of the Minister and his appointed delegates, and is designed, as we know, purely for the benefit of the development industry. So if elected, if a local plan is adopted and controls are determined, be it for an LEP or a district plan, there is no place for additional planning proposals. Yes, I would work to stop developer-led planning proposals and to alter the balance back towards community and away from the Minister and the Department. Thank you.